The Awakening of the Chosen. Accepting the anointed invites us to see how much, usually without awareness, we too may create obstacles to our own freedom. Fascinatingly enough, our choices shape these obstacles. The many yes we have spoken throughout our life help to build them. Consider this. In the name of becoming the one you were meant to be picked for, how many times have you sacrificed your peace of mind, assumed responsibility outside of your purview? Psychology reveals that this continuous attitude of service, that of the anchor for everyone around you, may lead to severe burnout and extreme distress. And also why? Though the cost is our own demise, society has trained us to see this inclination as heroic. We end up eating ourselves, much like a candle burns to light others, realizing that sometimes after serving our purpose, we are thrown aside, lauded one minute, then forgotten the next is the most painful thing. The seductive trap that passes for destiny, always being the correct person, of being meant to cure everything, showcases itself as jail. The moment has arrived to demolish this stigma and realize we do not have to stay on the pedestal we never decided to inhabit. You could be informed that you have been named anointed, or that you possess unique skills to help others bear weight. The fact is, however, that you are merely someone who has been conveniently used. You are not a cosmic cleaner sent to tidy other people's trash. This is not just a warning. Rather, it's my interpretation of the statement of personal freedom we should let us to write. It is imperative that we reevaluate this position because we should consider what it means to be selected. Let's change the script we are living with. Let previous habits not control the direction your tail should go. Our continuous yes are like invisible shackles binding us regardless of their brilliance. We have to challenge the legacy of compromising our well-being to be accepted or to not disappoint people close by. I'm not advocating that we cease supporting others or displaying solidarity. Rather, I'm advocating that this solidarity result from a real desire, rather than from a need we have been advised to welcome. Giving fresh meaning to our perception of compassion and aid helps us to see that our worth resides in our care of our essence as much as in what we do for others. Our actual goal is to strike equilibrium, wherein we may be kind to others and still good to ourselves. The universe does not honor those who cancel themselves out in order to help others. He does admire the real, the one who, under humility, understands how far to go without losing himself in the midst of other people's expectations. Only he who maintains his inner flame blazing can really illuminate the road ahead for everyone in his vicinity. When we strike a balance between giving and receiving, we realize that a hand that reaches out to assist may, and ought to, reject the weight pushing it down. Denouncing the roles that have been foisted on us requires bravery. Much more so is the replacement with stories that offer us peace. Every one of us might be resolved to descend from the pedestal, and when we touch the ground, understand that a life in balance is the most holy. Rewording the screenplay of our life has beauty in the transforming force protagonism affords. We abandon what no longer serves us when we start to be aware writers of our past. We find, surprisingly, that we create the path to very rich opportunities by releasing ourselves from the constrained expectations of being the chosen one. Magical discoveries find room when we release ourselves from the need to fix everything and everyone around us. When we let ourselves the freedom of choice and stop having it imposed, our actual claim as anointed becomes clear. Defining new paths for our path teaches us that, rather than carrying the world on our shoulders, being anointed means knowing when to gently let it go. The revival of our power starts right now. Realizing our inner strength and conquering resilience helps us to see that genuine wisdom is learning to listen to our intuition, and that any role that represses us may and should be reassessed. Our spiritual road is exactly a road of self-discovery, in which we welcome our vulnerability as necessary for development. Being the chosen one is a notion that, first look, might appear like a tremendous advantage. Still, this posture is sometimes just what others discover in us. From the outside, You may seem to have set yourself apart for a noble reason, but upon closer inspection, we find that this honor could be just a handy label. People that require your abilities to satisfy their own needs typically assign this title. You may find yourself bearing the weight of expectations not really yours without ever volunteering. Labeling yourself special or unique is often a wise approach to make sure you will always be meeting others' requirements. After all, isn't there implicit pressure on you to live up to your uniqueness if you feel you are unique? But supposing your selection has nothing at all to do with your own genius or character? What if this appreciation stems from your ease of manipulation? The truth is that typically that individual who is always accessible and who cannot say no gets summoned, not always the strongest or most intellectual person. That individual who feels bad trying to put himself first. Thus, being picked in this sense is not strictly a praise. Rather, it is a tactic. You are a great asset on someone else's board as you are considered as reliable, loyal, and unselfish. People wind up selecting you for the part you can do in their life, rather than for who you really are. Now pause and consider. How often have these folks really shown concern in whether you are okay? Alternatively, should you ever even want that position? Alternatively, were they constantly too busy savoring the results of their sacrifice to truly give it much thought? Starting to recognize this dynamic for what it is makes it abundantly evident that this is conditioning rather than destiny. Once you clearly perceive this, you realize you do not have to embrace this title. Actually, being selected may be like living in a jail under disguise. The secret is to understand that you have always had the actual decision to release yourself. This is your chance to read, define what it means to be really unique, and take charge of your own road. One decision you have to make is whether or not to share your talents and abilities. It comes from you and should suit your own needs and satisfaction, not for what you can provide others. You deserve to be appreciated for who you are. Reversing authority over your own story helps you to see that authenticity shines without outside affirmation. We must keep in mind that each of our life is a unique composition, not meant to follow the notes others have prescribed for us. Refusing this term allows us to discover and communicate our actual selves with more freely. Then we start to be the designers of our own road, free to mold it to fit our own aspirations and beliefs. This might imply at times our capacity to say no, to create boundaries that conserve our vitality and well-being. Often seen as a barrier, this behavior is really among the most brave ways one may communicate self-knowledge and self-love. Committing to your own emancipation is a personal and transforming trip. This is a trip where we learn that we have the freedom to investigate all the possibilities of who we really are by releasing the bonds of conditioning and imposed expectations. Not for convenience, but for personal integrity, it is the bravery to select one's own road that redefines what it means to be really chosen. Our genius comes from living in line with our own goals and ideals, not from performing roles others prescribe to us. Inspired by our path of honesty and emancipation, we provide room for others to likewise realize their own truths. When one considers traits like availability, dependability, or strength, first impression might be seen as honest appreciation. On closer examination, however, it is important to find out if what they are applauding is really you or the comfort they are experiencing from you running things. More frequently than we know, what seems to be appreciation might be hiding their actual intention to keep you in a position serving only their needs. Your worth then shows up in their success because you work at the limit and they gain from your efforts. Though it's practically invisible, phrases like rock, savior, or glue that holds everything together are employed as a strategic weapon to keep you conveniently positioned, independent of the emotional and physical toll it demands on you. They are not necessary to adopt as long as you remain strong. They won't have to own their mess if you are constantly ready to help them handle their difficulties. Under this system, you are the never-failing emergency plan, the safety net, the perpetual fixer. But in the duality of this partnership, who serves you? The most difficult aspect is when others who had before shouted magic about your ability swiftly turn against you the instant you show any weakness or dare to ask a break. Once abundant gratitude becomes dissatisfaction or even shame very fast. And the obvious explanation is that your strength served theirs rather than your own. At this point, you should truly consider yourself. Is it really worth keeping proving your value to others who only regard it as a situational fix? Not a sacrifice given for the convenience of others. Rather, your personal well-being should be first priority. Perhaps it's time to ask yourself if those individuals would be around if you paused briefly instead of evaluating your own value by how much you can do for others. This basic awareness may turn your life's path entirely around. You could wonder whether connections and obligations are really worth keeping as you concentrate your attention on yourself. It might be freeing to realize and welcome that your path shouldn't be based on the basis for other people's success. This fresh viewpoint acknowledges that balance is essential rather than suggesting isolating oneself from connection or assistance. Good interdependence guarantees that both parties stay emotionally motivated by enabling equal amount of giving and receiving. Though never at the price of your own tiredness or disregard of your own needs, your ability and power are magnificent quantities that should be embraced and used. Turning this insight into everyday life may be challenging and calls both bravery to reframe roles and let go of individuals who are tying their worth to circumstances. Reevaluating your worth and realizing it is not limited to what you can provide others marks the actual journey. This insight not only gives one self-confidence, but also opens fresh avenues of sincerity and close relationship with those who really count. Not because you do miracles, but rather because of who you are. Let yourself locate and build a group where you feel nourished and really cherished. Being the chosen one comes with a weight. Yet, as you develop this balance, you will discover that your strength increases rather than decreases when resting to recharge itself, thereby enabling you to be an even more vibrant and caring friend in a manner that is natural for your own soul. Quiet, and usually overpowering, the expectations of others. Though you never signed up for this, over time the people around you came to see you as the pillar of their life. Suddenly you find yourself firmly responsible for a mound of commitments. Some people want you to succeed where many have failed, to mend what is broken, and to somehow always be better. But was this duty to bear other people's issues something you really decided upon? One of the main issues with these expectations is their seldom open and honest nature. Rather, they just hover over you as if handling everything is already second nature. People believe you will always be ready. When you live up to those expectations, few people recall to wonder if you are really okay. They see you as indestructible, which makes them feel you don't need rest, aid, even a little token of thanks. Ultimately, they identify you in many ways as the dependable one, the fixer, the doer, but the outcome is that they only cause you to bear the weight of their own issues as you try to satisfy often unattainable criteria. Not at all heroic. This is a taxing experience. The terrible truth is that the weight of other people's expectations makes one feel imprisoned rather than strengthens one. Every success you have makes others demand more from you. Every mistake is perceived as a calamity because you will ultimately let down those depending on you. The unpleasant fact is that you did not seek to be on a pedestal, and it is not your responsibility to stay there. These expectations are not obligations of yours. Being selected does not mean you owe them your peace or sanity. The approbation you provide will never be worth your own sacrifice if the value people find in you is determined only by what you can provide for them. Realizing you do not have to bear this weight helps you to free yourself from these attachments. You will be quicker able to rediscover what it is to live for yourself, for your own satisfactions, and for your own well-being, the faster you leave behind the expectations that have been put upon you. Real freedom and power come from living really, free from the continual need to prove oneself to others, not from satisfying other people's expectations. Freeing yourself helps you to find your own self and realize that your worth has nothing to do with the degree of sacrifice you can make. Real independence starts when you concentrate on striking harmony between your obligations and your pleasure. Embracing the freedom to live for yourself helps you to open a universe in which serenity you discover in your own decisions defines your inner value instead of outside approbation. This release from outside pressure lets you uncover your own interests and passions, often buried beneath the weight of other people's expectations. Following the road that really speaks to your soul and listening to your inner voice calls for bravery. This road of self-discovery invites you to develop a good connection with yourself, give self-care first priority, and create clear limits safeguarding your mental and emotional state. These limitations serve as a constant reminder that you are deserving of a healthy and happy existence and are an act of self-love. Walking this road helps you to realize the need of surrounding yourself with people who accept and love your uniqueness, people who encourage your development without asking you to bear the weight of the earth. In these new and real partnerships, strength is determined by the honesty and pleasure you bring to sharing your path, rather than by the quantity of issues you can resolve. Support and understanding are mutual in these relationships. This more harmonic way of living enhances your mental and physical condition, as well as your social contacts. Ultimately, freed from stifling expectations, you become a lighter and more accurate version of yourself. You create space for rebirth and personal development by releasing these obligations, therefore feeding yourself with events that strengthen your spirit. True power shows itself in this ongoing regeneration. It is strength that emanates from the inside out and does not need proclamation or exhibition. Realizing that you are not accountable for the obligations of others gives a peace only achievable when you live in line with your own beliefs. This peace permeates every aspect of your life and shows itself in a balance that goes beyond daily obligations. By letting this lightness, life becomes a place where satisfaction and sincerity with which one chooses to live each moment define worth instead than outside successes. And that is precisely where real power resides, in the deliberate decision to live for yourself, to be true to who you really are, and to find delight in every action you undertake on this road of freedom and self-awareness. Being called the Chosen One is an experience that would appear, at first look, to be very privileged. The possibility of appreciation and praise might first seem like a gift, but often this glittering top conceals an unpleasant shadow, the sense of captivity and suffocation. Examining the matter more closely, the important issue becomes, did someone at some time really ask about your want to shoulder this load? Usually the response is negative. He was carrying the weight without his voice heard. Oftentimes, this situation of being allocated to a major responsibility without previous consultation proves to be less of a gift and more of a means of distributing tasks. People around you who unilaterally decide you are the answer will defend it by transferring their expectations and issues onto you. It seems as if your function is connected to the success of ideas and solutions outside of your purview, as though a quiet handoff of duties. This weight consequently is accompanied by an implicit expectation of thankfulness. In principle, gratitude should develop from realizing a gift or acquisition of something sought. Still, the issue of why you should be thankful begs itself. For always high standards that saps your vitality, under continuous, relentless pressure to always be flawless, or maybe because we had no choice available. This helps us to consider the actual nature of societal expectations and how they could create barriers around our own liberty. One cannot undervalue the loneliness this situation generates. Your essential self lacks room to exist when you are seen just as a solution. Interactions become into a one-way road when the urgency of others overwhelms your needs and wants. Often, the coldness of demand replaces the warmth of compassion in the times of uncertainty or challenges you could encounter. Guilt turns from a shadow of persistent presence rather than empathy. People perceive you as an idealized person, hence the motto, "You are the only one who can do this," strikes resonance. Your identity and humanity are buried in the hero story they have produced. In this kind of unilateral decision, the sensation of confinement, of being caught, might become second nature. Often hidden as honor, what is really an emotional shackle keeping you in a loop benefiting everyone except yourself. This title of selected one starts to represent all the outside expectations imposed on your shoulders without your permission. Still, there is a freeing fact in this framework: control over your life. Acknowledge that while events could force certain roles in your path, the life you lead belongs only to you. Though we forget that genuine spiritual and emotional joy comes from living in line with our own selves, we live in a culture that sometimes honors personal sacrifice as the ultimate value. Moving away from roles enforced without agreement is an innate right, a self-respect deed. Respecting your essence, your needs, and your boundaries calls for bravery. It is the understanding that you are on your own road, not here to be molded by the demands and wants of others. This road starts with the knowledge that, in its most basic form, spirituality is the quest for inner truth. These meditations ask us to reconsider what it means to be heroic. Being a hero in your own life is about following your path and your truth, not about adopting the job others have selected for you. You respect your own path and create room for a more real and full existence when you welcome your freedom of choice. Within this environment, spirituality may really blossom free from outside demands. The spiritual key is our ability to be genuinely ourselves, not what other people demand of us. Examining the core of personal power forces us to confront a fact that sometimes stays hidden behind social norms. Following the road taken by people who often find themselves selected not by their choice, but by the projection of others, the idea of personal power gains fresh relevance. This strength does not come from being the anchor helping other people's struggles, or from having constant capacity to solve problems not of your own. Setting clear boundaries, giving your own well-being first priority, and realizing that responsibility and power are not synonyms show true personal power. This is a friendly reminder to pay attention to the inner whispers reminding you of your humanity beneath the superhero mask others may perceive. Starting to deconstruct these outside expectations comes with validating your own needs. Though in practice it is a necessary expression of self-love, the society we live in sometimes teaches us that putting ourselves first is selfish. Choosing to be you free from the bonds of expectations that do not belong to you is a courageous and mature move. Saying no when needed is true personal power, not out of contempt, but rather from understanding that your path is yours to travel. Though it involves disappointing those who have become used to placing their own needs and goals above yours, that no is a great tool for guiding toward what you really want. Being your unique artwork, life should mirror the decisions that come from within you. Difficult days provide a special chance for self-discovery and emancipation. We start to release ourselves from the restrictions of the selected role when we realize it is reasonable to live beyond the pedestal built by external expectations. Authenticity requires shedding this cloak as well. It was never custom-made for you. Maybe it was more of a reflection of what others considered essential than of what you really are or want to be. Your path has particular significance as your decisions, passions, and deepest needs feed each other. Recovering this freedom lets you live by your truth. The best kind of personal power a human being can use is ultimately authenticity among so many outside voices. It's not about rescuing the planet or playing out prescribed duties for you. It's about living your life with honesty and richness and being really yourself. The real spiritual key is letting your soul sparkle free from the weight of demands placed upon you. When we decide to self-prioritize, we not only respect ourselves, but also provide a road of truth and self-love to others, therefore motivating them to search their own truths. Away from the shadow of the chosen one, reinventing your path is a profoundly transforming trip where every step you take toward your authenticity is a personal empowerment act. A profoundly transforming topic, and one that speaks to the core of self-knowledge, is liberation onto a different road. We are pushed to confront our own character beyond the expectations that have been put on us by divorcing the weight that the selected one moniker bears. This is a deliberate set of conscious choices and actions where every choice becomes an act of courage towards self-determination. It is not instantaneous or easy. The trip is an accumulation of little deeds reminding us that our life does not have to be connected to the wishes of other people. It does not happen in one instant. In this regard, reframing our priorities becomes very important. What is the core of the things that really uplifting our spirit? What provides us peace and actual delight? Our basis should be little pleasures, real sincerity, and soul-enriching encounters. Emotional and spiritual health depends on developing connections based on reciprocity, in which case we are appreciated for our essence and not just for what we can provide. This is an invitation to master the craft of assigning work and distributing responsibility. Believing that we shouldn't be carrying the planet on our shoulders helps us to be lighthearted and reminds us of the importance of teamwork. Reaching away from the position of chosen one is an act of self-understanding and respect for oneself, not of selfishness. It is the search of personal integrity while preserving sensible, aware giving toward those in our vicinity. Our most valuable assets are our time and energy. Rather than always responding to what is expected of us, good financial management is essential for determining the life we really want. Real freedom is the ability to embrace who we really are, progress at our own speed, free from the trappings of grand titles or enforced positions. It is consoling to know that those who really love us would value and encourage our developments. True freedom, I acknowledge, comes from the simplicity of being yourself, adequate for oneself, free from the need to satisfy any other expectation. The road to this emancipation is also one of acceptance, which will help us to reach a position where our essence shows more than enough. Realizing that once we take charge of our life, we frequently overlook the balance we naturally discover. This chapter asks us to consider the actual meaning of personal power, that of being rather than of dominating. The ability to make decisions and prioritize our needs above the demands the society insists on putting upon us. Honoring our time and energy helps us to make room for what is important and teach us to be content with our essence. This road is not lonely as real ties go with us even amid upheavals. Many people see personal transformation, which is truly a return of our purest self, as a violation of outside standards. How often do we discover we are caught in positions we never really chose? By freeing ourselves from these roles, we are returning the autonomy we have always had. However, sometimes the demands of life took away from us. Acknowledging our own individuality leads us to a place of calm and wholeness, where we find that just being ourselves, unadorned, is more than just enough. It is the secret to a full and satisfied existence. By the conclusion of this road of release, we not only discover ourselves, but also a fresh perspective on what it is to really live. Every stride in this direction seems to expose fresh layers of our being, proving to us that, in simplicity, we are more sophisticated and lovely than we could have ever dreamed. It is therefore a lesson in which we learn how many treasures there are in our own nature by letting ourselves be who we are, and thus releasing our freedom. This road not only changes us, but also respects our humanity in its most natural and authentic form. Realizing that actual freedom comes in embracing ourselves will help us to feel relaxed as we travel this road of self-discovery. Apart from the path of self-liberation, it gives every one of us the chance to regain purpose and enthusiasm for what really counts. Let our emotions direct us and seize this chance for release. Perhaps as we investigate these issues, we can go gently and gracefully, realizing that the road to actual freedom is one that spans. Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite all your achievements, it feels like something essential is still missing? My name is Gabriel, and I've helped countless people like you discover the true spiritual power that resides within them. And today, I want to help you. If you feel like life is passing by while something important remains out of place, maybe it's time for an awakening. My audiobook, The Path of the Chosen, was created precisely for those who have reached this point. In this audiobook, I guide you to feel that enthusiasm for living in alignment with what truly matters, knowing that every step has meaning. Together, we'll transform your fears, traumas, and frustrations into powerful strengths that propel you to a new level of growth. Leave behind the feeling of spiritual isolation and find the peace of a true, constant connection with a greater energy that has always been by your side. Instead of fighting against what you feel, you'll learn to find purpose, serenity, and self-discovery to fill your inner world. This could be the beginning of a fuller, more meaningful life. I've seen it happen for so many others, and now it's your turn. Don't let this opportunity slip by. Click on the link pinned in the first comment and begin this journey with the path of the chosen. This is your chance to fill what's missing and finally live the life you deserve. I'll be waiting for you there.